The ambassador's daughter held the leather journal like it might explode. Her violet hands trembled as she turned another page, her 3 eyes widening with each human word. Outside the observation deck, stars blurred past the diplomatic vessel, but Kira hadn't looked up in an hour. The human's handwriting was messy, urgent, like he'd written while running. "Put that down." The royal guard's voice cut through the silence. Kira's primary heart skipped. She hadn't heard Commander Veshna enter. The warrior stood in the doorway, armor gleaming under the soft lights, one hand resting on her plasma blade. "That belongs to the dead human. It's evidence." "Evidence of what?" Kira's voice cracked. She was only 16 cycles old, barely past her first molt. "He didn't attack anyone." The report said mechanical failure. Veshna's expression didn't change. She moved closer, boots silent on the metal floor. "The investigation is ongoing. You're compromising it. This isn't about machines." Kira clutched the journal tighter. He knew something. About us. About the treaty. She flipped to a marked page, hands shaking. "Listen to this. They think they're negotiating from strength. They don't understand what strength means. Not yet." The commander's secondary eyes narrowed. "Where did you find that?" "I was looking for..." Kira stopped. She couldn't admit she'd broken protocol. Again, it doesn't matter. You need to read this. I need you to return that journal and report to your mother immediately." Veshna extended her hand. "The ambassador has been searching for you for 3 hours." Kira stepped back. The journal felt hot against her chest. "My mother is signing the treaty tomorrow, with the Zomar Empire. This human, his name was Marcus Chen, he wrote that the Zomar don't honor peace, they honor weakness." She turned another page, reading frantically. "He says humans studied the Zomar for decades before contact. He says every species that signed a treaty with them ended up conquered within a generation." Veshna's hand moved to her weapon. Not threatening, just ready. "Humans lie. They manipulate. It's in their nature." "And why did you let him on this ship?" Kira's voice rose. "Why did the Queen assign him as an observer? To understand the enemy." The word hung between them like poison. Kira felt her skin pale. "We're not enemies with humans. The war ended. We agreed to." "We agreed to nothing." Veshna crossed the distance in 2 strides and grabbed Kira's wrist. Her grip was iron. "The humans surrendered. They gave us Marcus Chen as a gesture of goodwill, to prove they understood their place." Kira tried to pull away. Veshna held firm. "He died 2 days ago," the guard said quietly. "Convenient timing. 1 day before the treaty signing." "You think someone killed him?" Kira's breath quickened. "Who?" "Why? I think you need to put down that journal and forget you ever saw it." Veshna's voice dropped to barely a whisper. "Your mother's future depends on this treaty. Your entire family's future. The Queen herself ordered this alliance." Kira looked down at the journal. Another passage caught her eye. "They'll read this eventually, maybe not the right people. Maybe too late. But someone needs to know. Humans don't give up. We don't forget. And we definitely don't forgive. We just wait." "Commander, what if he's right? What if the Zomar are using us?" Veshna released her wrist and took a step back. For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Not anger, something worse. Fear. "What makes you think they aren't?" The deck shuddered. Red lights flashed. A proximity alert screamed through the ship's speakers. Kira grabbed the wall for balance. "What's happening?" Veshna's hand went to her communicator. "Bridge, report." Then a voice, tight with panic. "Zomar warships just dropped out of hyperspace. 12 vessels. They're surrounding us." "We're in neutral space," Kira breathed. "They can't..." "They're hailing us," the bridge officer continued. "They're demanding we surrender the human's body and all his possessions.
Immediately.
Or they'll open fire." Veshna looked at the journal in Kira's hands. Her expression hardened. "How did they know?" The deck shuddered again. Harder this time. The lights flickered. Kira's mother's voice crackled over the intercom, steady despite everything. "All personnel to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Royal Guard to the throne room. Now." Veshna grabbed Kira's shoulder. "Listen carefully. You're going to hide that journal. Somewhere no one will find it. Do you understand?" "I thought you wanted me to..." "That was before Zomar warships appeared in neutral space, hours before a peace treaty." Veshna's grip tightened. That was before I understood what's in that journal. Marcus Chen knew. Somehow he knew.
The commander leaned close. That this isn't a treaty.
It's a trap. And we walked right into it. Kira felt her legs weaken. We need to warn the Queen. The Queen knows. Veshna released her and headed for the door. Why do you think she sent a human observer in the first place? She suspected. But suspicion isn't proof. And now, she stopped at the threshold. Hide that journal. If the Zomar want it this badly, it's worth more than both our lives. The ship rocked violently. Somewhere deep in the hull, metal screamed. Kira pressed the journal against her chest and ran. She didn't know where she was going. Just away. Away from the throne room. Away from the bridge. Away from the Zomar ships that surrounded them like predators circling prey. Her feet carried her through maintenance corridors she'd explored as a child, back when diplomatic vessels seemed like adventures instead of coffins. The journal's leather cover was warm, almost alive. Marcus Chen had touched these pages, written these words. Died protecting these secrets. Kira slid into a ventilation shaft and pulled the grate closed behind her. Her hand shook as she opened to a random page. If you're reading this, I'm probably dead. Good. That means they believe the act. Now listen carefully, whoever you are. Everything you think you know about humans is wrong. Everything your leaders told you about the war is a lie. And if you're on a ship with Zomar anywhere nearby, you need to run. Right now. Because what's about to happen? The page ended. Kira turned it frantically. The next section was written in different ink. Darker, more urgent. They're in the walls. I can hear them. Zomar infiltrators. On a diplomatic vessel. On my vessel. They think I don't know. They think humans are stupid. Weak. They're wrong. I sent the message. Command will receive it in 6 hours. But 6 hours might be too late. If anyone finds this, tell them Marcus Chen remembered. Tell them humanity doesn't forgive. The ventilation shaft suddenly felt very small, very dark. Kira's breath came faster. She forced herself to keep reading. The Queen suspects. I see it in her eyes. She's not like the others. She understands strategy. Sacrifice. She sent me here knowing I might not return. That makes 2 of us willing to die for truth. Maybe that's enough. Maybe Zomar boots. Kira pressed herself against the shaft wall and held her breath. Through the grate she saw 3 figures pass, not her people. Not humans. Zomar warriors in full combat armor, plasma rifles ready, moving with the confidence of soldiers who owned this ship. But they didn't. Not yet. Kira waited until they disappeared around a corner, then crawled deeper into the shaft. Her mother's voice echoed through the intercom again. Calm. Too calm. This is Ambassador Thala. To the Zomar fleet. We are a diplomatic vessel under neutral territory protection. Your presence here violates 17 treaties. Withdraw immediately. The response came in clicks and hisses. Zomar language translated by the ship's computer. You possess stolen property. Return the human's remains and all associated materials. You have 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Kira looked at the journal. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. Marcus Chen had known. He'd known they would come. Known he would die. And somehow he'd left this behind anyway. The last page had only 3 words, written larger than the rest. Humanity remembers everything. The ship's engines died. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Kira heard her mother's voice one more time, barely a whisper through failing systems. Veshna. Protocol Omega. The kind that comes before explosions. Before war. Before the universe changes forever. Kira clutched the journal and started crawling. Toward the escape pods. Toward anything that might survive what was coming. Because Marcus Chen had been right about one thing. This wasn't a treaty. It was a massacre. And she was holding the only evidence that might stop it. Somewhere behind her, plasma weapons charged. The Zomar were done asking. Kira's primary heart hammered against her ribs. She had maybe 5 minutes before they breached the throne room, 3 minutes before they searched the ship, 1 minute before they found the ventilation shaft. She crawled faster. The journal felt heavier with every meter. Not because of weight, because of truth. Because Marcus Chen had died to protect these words, and now that burden fell to a 16-cycle-old girl who just wanted her mother to be proud of her. The universe had other plans. The universe always did. Kira reached the end of the shaft and dropped into a cargo bay. Empty. Perfect. She ran toward the emergency pods, journal clutched tight, prayers flowing in languages she'd forgotten she knew. Behind her, the Zomar began cutting through the walls. Ahead, escape flickered like a dying star. Marcus Chen had written one more thing on the inside cover. Kira hadn't noticed it before. To whoever finds this, run first. Read later. Trust nothing. Trust no one. Except maybe the Queen. She's different.
She might actually listen. Is she still alive?
The cargo bay door sealed behind her. One pod remained. Kira climbed inside and initiated launch sequence. Through the small viewport, she saw her mother's ship. Saw the Zomar vessels surrounding it like a metal cage. Saw plasma cannons charging. The pod shook as magnetic locks released. 5 seconds to launch. 4. The throne room exploded in white light. Kira screamed. The pod launched. G-forces crushed her against the seat. The journal slipped from her fingers and floated in zero gravity, pages fluttering like dying wings. Behind her, the diplomatic vessel broke apart. Atmosphere vented into space, carrying bodies and hope and 17 different treaty proposals that would never be signed. Kira watched through tears as her mother's ship died. Watched as the Zomar fleet turned toward her tiny escape pod. Watched as everything Marcus Chen had warned about came true in fire and metal and blood. The pod's navigation system sparked to life. An automated message played. Her mother's voice, recorded hours ago. Maybe days. Kira, if you're hearing this, I've failed. The Zomar were faster than we expected. Smarter. But you're alive. That means there's still hope. The journal, Marcus Chen's journal, get it to the Queen. Not through official channels. Not through anyone you know. Find someone humans call a smuggler. Someone who doesn't care about politics. Only survival. The Queen needs to see what Chen discovered. She needs to know before static consumed the rest. Kira grabbed the floating journal. Her hands barely worked. Shock was setting in. Behind her, the Zomar fleet launched pursuit drones. Small, fast, deadly. The pod's engine whined, pushing past safety limits. Not fast enough. The drones would catch her in minutes. She had seconds to decide. Jettison the journal and maybe survive. Keep it and definitely die. Marcus Chen's words echoed in her mind. Humanity remembers everything. She strapped the journal to her chest and routed all power to engines. The pod screamed forward. The drones screamed after her. Space became a blur of stars and death. Kira closed her eyes and thought of her mother. Thought of Marcus Chen. Thought of all the people who died so she could run with a book full of secrets. The pod hit something. Hard. Kira's head cracked against metal. Darkness swallowed her whole. She woke to voices. Human voices. Strong hands pulled her from wreckage. She tried to focus. Couldn't. Everything hurt. Someone was reading the journal. Multiple someones. Their language was harsh, efficient, nothing like the diplomatic phrases she'd learned. Chen, you magnificent bastard, one of them whispered. You actually did it. Is she awake? Another voice. Female. Commander's voice. Kira forced her eyes open. A human woman stood over her, scars covered half her face. Eyes like frozen metal. Welcome aboard, kid. You just started a war. War already started, Kira managed. Her voice sounded broken. My mother. We saw the woman held up the journal. This changes everything. Chen suspected the Zomar had infiltrated your government. Looks like he was right. Question is, how high does it go? Kira's blood turned to ice. What do you mean? Why would the Queen send a human observer to a Zomar treaty signing? Why would she use Protocol Omega, complete data purge, before her ship was even boarded? And why, she tapped the journal, would she leave you a message telling you to bypass official channels and come straight to her? She trusted Chen? Kira breathed. She knew about the infiltrators. She knew more than that. The woman opened the journal to a page marked with dried blood. Chen's last entry, written minutes before he died. The Queen showed me their plans. All of them. She's been playing both sides for years. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for proof. I gave her proof. Now she just needs time. And a witness no one expects. Kira sat up despite the pain. I'm the witness. You're the match that lights the fire. The woman stood. Your mother's death just made interstellar news. Zomar are claiming it was a human attack, that we planted Chen as a saboteur, that the treaty was our trap, not theirs. That's insane. We have a dead man's journal. The woman's expression hardened. That's not proof. That's a conspiracy. But you're the ambassador's daughter. You were there. You saw what happened. You escaped. And if you testify before the Galactic Council, they'll kill me before I reach the chambers. It wasn't comforting. That's why we're not taking you to the council. We're taking you to the Queen. Directly. Tonight. Before the Zomar can spin this into their advantage. Kira looked around. She was on a human ship. A military vessel. Everything was gray and efficient and covered in weapons. Why are you helping me? Because Chen was ours. The woman's voice went cold. Because your mother died trying to stop a war. Because the Zomar think they can murder diplomats and blame humanity. And because she leaned close. We really, really don't like being underestimated. Red lights flooded the corridor. Someone shouted from the bridge. Zomar cruiser just jumped in. They're locking weapons. Battle stations. Prepare to jump. We're still in the debris field, another voice protested. Debris will be the least of our problems. She turned back to Kira. Hold on to something. Human FTL drives don't care about safety regulations. The ship lurched. Reality folded. Kira's stomach tried to escape through her throat. Colors that shouldn't exist painted the walls. Sound became texture. Time hiccuped. Then everything snapped back into focus. They were somewhere else. Somewhere dark. A moon hung outside the viewports, silver and dead. Where are we? Kira gasped. The Queen's secret. The one place Zomar spies never found. The woman helped her stand. Welcome to Sanctuary. The place where your people planned their real wars. The moon wasn't dead. As Kira watched, lights flickered across its surface. Thousands of them. Shipyards. Weapons platforms. An entire fleet hung in orbit. Power signatures cold and visible to standard sensors. Her people's fleet. The Queen's fleet. She's been preparing, Kira whispered. For decades. The woman handed her the journal. Chen figured it out. Your queen isn't negotiating with the Zomar. She's studying them. Learning their tactics. Waiting for them to make a mistake big enough to justify total war. Killing your mother, that was the mistake. You're saying my mother died on purpose? That the queen sacrificed her? I'm saying your mother knew the risks. She went anyway. Because some things are worth dying for. The woman's expression softened slightly. Chen understood. Your mother understood. Now you need to understand. This isn't about revenge. It's about survival. The Zomar are expanding. They've conquered 40 systems in 50 years. Always through treaties.
Always through infiltration.
Your queen is the first leader to see the pattern, to prepare. But preparation means nothing without proof.
Without a witness. Without you.
The ship docked. Gravity shifted. Kira followed the woman through corridors that smelled like ozone and determination. Human soldiers nodded as they passed. Their eyes held respect. Fear. Something else. Hope, maybe. They reached a sealed door. 2 royal guards stood watch. Not her people, the Queen's personal guard. Elite warriors who'd sworn blood oaths. One of them stepped forward. Commander Veshna, alive. Kira's legs nearly gave out. I thought you died with your mother? Veshna's expression was granite. Protocol Omega includes select extractions. The Queen ordered me to survive. To verify. To witness. Her eyes dropped to the journal. You found it. Chen left it for someone to find. He left it for you. Veshna entered a code. The door hissed open. The Queen has been waiting. The throne room was nothing like the official chambers. No gold, no ceremony. Just tactical displays and star maps and data streams flowing across every surface. In the center, watching a battle simulation, stood the Queen. She was smaller than Kira expected.
Older.
Scars covered her arms. Warrior scars. Commander scars. The kind earned in actual combat, not diplomatic disputes. She turned. Her eyes met Kira's. Ambassador Thala's daughter. I'm sorry for your loss. She managed to bow. Your Majesty? No. The Queen descended from her platform. Here, we don't use titles. Here, we use truth. Your mother was my friend, my advisor, my conscience. She volunteered for that mission knowing it might be her last. Because we needed proof. We needed the Zomar to reveal themselves. And they did. She gestured to the displays. Every major news network is covering the attack. 17 species are demanding investigations. The day-active council is in emergency session. The Zomar are scrambling to contain the damage. But they're blaming humans, Kira said. Of course they are. The Queen took the journal from Kira's trembling hands. They're good at that. Humans make convenient villains. Aggressive. Unpredictable. Dangerous. Everything the Zomar claim to protect against. But this, she held up the journal. This is Marcus Chen's testimony. A human who knew he would die, who documented everything, and who trusted that someone would listen. Someone like you. I'm nobody, Kira whispered. I'm just the only survivor of a Zomar attack on a diplomatic vessel. The Queen's voice hardened. The daughter of a murdered ambassador. A witness with nothing to gain from lying. When you testify before the council, the entire galaxy will listen. And when they read Chen's journal, when they see how he predicted every Zomar move, they'll understand. This isn't random violence. It's systematic conquest disguised as peace. Kira felt the weight of it. Every word, every expectation. What if I'm not strong enough? The Queen smiled. It was sad and fierce and utterly without mercy. Marcus Chen was strong enough to die for truth. Your mother was strong enough to sacrifice everything for her people. You don't need to be strong enough. You just need to be brave enough to let their strength carry you forward. The council convenes in 6 hours. We'll have one chance. If the Zomar suspect you're alive, they'll send everything they have. Then we make sure they don't suspect. The human woman entered the room, now wearing formal military insignia. Captain Sarah Reeves, Humanity's 5th Fleet. We've prepared a route. Multiple jump points. Decoy vessels. Zomar will be hunting ghosts while we deliver the real target. Kira, are you willing to hide? To let someone else be the hero? But Kira looked at the journal in the Queen's hands. Thought of Marcus Chen writing by candlelight, knowing death was close. Thought of her mother's final message. Thought of Veshna standing ready to die. Thought of Captain Reeves and her scarred face and her crew who'd risked everything to save one girl with a book. I'll do it. Good. The Queen handed the journal back. Keep this close. It's more valuable than any weapon. Now rest. You have 5 hours before we change the galaxy forever. Small. Efficient. Clean. She collapsed onto the bunk and opened the journal one more time. A loose page fell out. Chen's handwriting. Different from the rest. Personal. To whoever carries this forward, thank you. I know it's heavy. I know it's terrifying. But you're reading this, which means you survived. Which means there's still hope. Humans have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. You're doing something that makes you a hero, even if you don't feel like one. Especially if you don't feel like one. Stay strong. Stay smart. And remember, humanity doesn't forgive. But we do remember. And we always, always keep our promises. This is my promise to you, whoever you are. Your sacrifice won't be forgotten. Your courage won't be wasted. And when the dust settles, when the truth comes out, when the Zomar finally answer for their crimes, know that you made it possible. Know that you mattered. Know that Marcus Chen, a human who never even learned your name, died believing you would finish what he started. Don't let me down. Kira pressed the page to her chest and let herself cry. For her mother. For Chen. For herself. For everyone who died so she could sit here, terrified and alive and carrying the weight of worlds. She cried until she had nothing left. Then she slept. She woke to alarms. Not combat alarms, departure alarms. Captain Reeves appeared in the doorway. Time to move. The council is waiting, so is the entire galaxy. The journey took 3 hours, multiple jumps, silent running, every sensor on maximum. Twice they detected Zomar patrol ships. Twice Captain Reeves changed course without hesitation. The woman flew like she'd been born in vacuum, like space was just another weapon to master. They emerged in council space. Hundreds of vessels from dozens of species surrounded the massive station. Kira had seen it in recordings, never imagined she'd stand here. The center of galactic law. The place where species came to settle disputes without weapons. Usually, Veshna stood beside her as they approached the docking bay. Remember your training. Stand straight. Speak clearly. Don't let them see fear.
I'm terrified.
Good. Fear means you understand the stakes. Veshna's hand touched Kira's shoulder. Your mother would be proud. The docking clamps engaged. The airlock opened. Kira stepped into controlled chaos. Delegates rushed past, speaking a dozen languages. News drones floated everywhere, cameras recording history. Someone shouted her name. Then everyone was shouting. Demands. Accusations. The Queen appeared, not alone. Flanked by guards and human soldiers and delegates from species Kira barely recognized. Make way. The witness approaches. At the end of the corridor stood the council chambers. Massive doors carved with the symbols of every member species. Including the Zomar. Kira's blood ran cold when she saw it.
A spiral.
Beautiful. Predatory. The symbol of a species that conquered through patience. The doors opened. The chamber fell silent. Thousands of eyes turned toward her. Kira felt her courage waver. Then she felt the journal pressed against her chest. Heard Chen's words in her mind. Stay strong. Stay smart. She walked forward. Each step echoed. The council chairman, a crystalline being from a species older than stars, gestured toward the testimony platform. Ambassador Thila's daughter. You stand before the Galactic Council. You claim to possess evidence of Zomar aggression. Present it. Looked out at the assembled delegates. Saw the Zomar contingent. 12 of them. Confident. Already preparing their response. She opened the journal. My name is Kira. My mother was murdered 3 days ago by Zomar warships. They claimed she possessed stolen property. They demanded we surrender a human body and his belongings. When we refused, they opened fire. I survived. My mother didn't. Neither did Marcus Chen, the human observer assigned to our vessel. But Chen left something behind. His testimony. His warnings. His proof. She began reading. The chamber stayed silent. Every word Chen had written. Every prediction he'd made. Every pattern he'd identified. The Zomar delegates shifted. Whispered.
One stood. This is fiction.
Human propaganda. Then explain why everything he predicted came true. Kira's voice didn't shake. He wrote about infiltrators on our ship. We found them. He wrote about Zomar vessels appearing before the treaty signing. They appeared. He wrote about my mother being targeted. She's dead. Either Marcus Chen was the galaxy's luckiest prophet, or he was telling the truth. The human was a saboteur. He planned the attack himself. He planned his own death? Kira held up the journal. He documented his suspicions knowing he wouldn't survive to see them proven. That's not sabotage. That's sacrifice. But the delegate's voice wavered. The chairman raised a crystalline hand. Let her finish. Kira read Chen's final entries. The evidence. The names. The dates. The patterns spanning decades. 40 systems, 40 treaties, 40 conquests. All following the same script. Infiltration. Treaty. Incident. Annexation. The Zomar had perfected the art of peaceful invasion. When she finished, the chamber erupted. Delegates shouting. Accusations flying. The Zomar contingent tried to leave. The doors sealed. The chairman's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. You will answer these charges. We recognize no authority here. The lead Zomar delegate stood tall. Our actions were defensive. The human was a threat. The ambassador harbored him. We acted within our rights. By murdering a diplomatic vessel in neutral space, the Queen stood. Kira had never heard her voice so cold. By attacking without warning? By demanding surrender before declaring hostilities? By any definition, that's not defense. That's war. Then war you shall have. The Zomar delegate's skin turned black. We have fleets in every system you claim as allies. We have infiltrators in every government you think is secure. You cannot win. You can only choose how many die before you surrender. Now that, Captain Reeves said from the back of the chamber, sounds like a confession. Too late. Every word had been recorded, broadcast, transmitted to every corner of civilized space. The Zomar had just declared war on the Galactic Council, in front of the Galactic Council, while being recorded by the Galactic Council. The chairman's form brightened until it hurt to look at. The Council recognizes a state of war between the Zomar Empire and all member species. Economic sanctions are hereby enacted. Military response is authorized. This session is adjourned. Chaos consumed the chamber. Kira stood frozen on the platform. She'd done it. Chen's journal had done it. Her mother's sacrifice had done it. The truth had finally won. Veshna appeared beside her. "We need to leave. Now. The Zomar won't accept this peacefully." But as they ran toward the exit, Kira saw something that made her stop. The Zomar delegates weren't panicking. They were smiling. One of them looked directly at her and mouthed 2 words. Too late. Then the station's shields failed. Proximity alarms screamed. Through the viewports, Kira saw them. Zomar warships. Hundreds of them, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect formation. Not attacking. Surrounding. Waiting. The lead delegate's voice echoed through the station's intercom. "You wanted proof of our intentions. Allow us to demonstrate. You have 1 hour to surrender all human vessels and personnel. You have 1 hour to dissolve this council and submit to Zomar authority. You have 1 hour to choose cooperation over extinction. The countdown begins now." Captain Reeves grabbed Kira's arm. "Move. If we're still here when that hour ends, we're all dead," said he. They'd won the truth and lost the war. Chen had been right. Her mother had been right. The Queen had been right. And none of it mattered because the Zomar had been planning this for decades, and now... "Kira," Veshna shook her. "We need you alive. Chen's journal needs to survive. Whatever happens here, the galaxy needs to know what we discovered." That's more important than any battle, than any station, than any of us. Do you understand? She grabbed the journal and ran. Behind her, the council chamber emptied in controlled panic. Ahead, human soldiers formed defensive positions. The Queen stood at a viewport, watching the Zomar fleet, her expression unreadable. Kira reached her. "Your Majesty, we have to..." They made their first real mistake. They have hundreds of ships. They revealed their position. The Queen touched a communicator. "All vessels. Execute Protocol Dawn." The moon, sanctuary, ignited. Not with weapons. With light. The entire surface became a massive transmitter, broadcasting on every frequency, every language, every network. The Queen's voice filled the void. "To all free species. To all those who value peace. To all who recognize tyranny when it threatens. The Zomar Empire has declared war on civilization itself. Don't pursue. They demand surrender. They expect compliance. They believe strength is measured in ships and threats. They're wrong. Strength is measured in sacrifice, in courage, in the willingness to stand when standing seems impossible. Humanity learned this lesson long ago. We taught it to those who underestimated us. Today we teach it again. To the Zomar Empire. You wanted a demonstration. Allow us to provide one."
Space twisted.
Reality bent. From every direction, ships emerged from hyperspace. Human ships. Thousands of them. The 5th Fleet. The 7th. Every vessel humanity had hidden. Every weapon they'd built. Every soldier they'd trained. All appearing at once in perfect coordination. But they weren't alone. Ships from a dozen other species joined them. Species the Queen had secretly contacted. Species who'd suffered under Zomar treaties. Species who'd been waiting for someone brave enough to fight back. The fleet grew from hundreds to thousands. From thousands to tens of thousands. The Zomar fleet suddenly looked very small, very alone. The lead delegate's voice crackled through the chaos. "This is impossible." Intelligence said what we wanted it to say. The Queen's smile widened. "Did you really think we'd trust diplomacy alone? That we'd enter negotiations without contingencies? That we'd send Marcus Chen as a simple observer?" She laughed. Cold. Victorious. Chen was bait. His journal was the trap. And you, all of you, walked right into it. 'Cause you assumed we were weak. You assumed we'd surrender.
You assumed wrong.
The Zomar fleet broke formation. Some vessels jumped to hyperspace. Others powered weapons. Others tried to signal surrender. It didn't matter. The combined fleet moved forward like a wave of metal and fury. Captain Reeves appeared beside Kira. "You should probably cover your eyes." Kira didn't. She watched as the Zomar learned what humanity had learned centuries ago. That fear is a weapon. That reputation is armor. That sometimes the only response to tyranny is overwhelming, undeniable, absolute force. The battle lasted 17 minutes. When it ended, the Zomar fleet was debris and the council station was secure. The Queen addressed the council one more time. "Let this be a lesson. To the Zomar. To anyone who mistakes peace for weakness, we will negotiate. We will compromise. We will seek diplomatic solutions. But we will not surrender. We will not submit. And we will not forget. She held up Chen's journal. Marcus Chen died so we would remember. Ambassador Thela died so we would act. They gave us the truth. We gave them justice. That's the bargain. That's the promise. That's humanity's gift to the galaxy. We remember everything, and we forgive nothing.
Then one delegate began clapping.
Then another. Then the entire chamber erupted in applause. Not celebration. Recognition.
Understanding.
The Zomar had been stopped. The treaty had been exposed. The war had been won before it truly began. Because one human had kept a journal. Because one girl had carried it forward. Because some truths are worth dying for, and some promises are worth keeping forever. Kira held the journal close and whispered to the dead, "We remembered."
Just like you asked.
We remembered everything. 2 halves.